Hello and welcome to Real Watchers Movie Club. My name is Garrett,
And I'm Kevin.
and we are your hosts. Movie Club is a show where we pick a movie and discuss it every week, just like a book club. On today's show, we are covering the silent sci-fi film Metropolis. Our thoughts and more coming up on Movie Club. Released in 1927, Metropolis was directed by Fritz Lang and stars Gustav Froelich, Brigitte Helm, and Alfred Abel. Sorry if there's any mispronunciation of those names. In a futuristic city sharply divided between the rich and the poor, the son of the city's mastermind meets a prophet who predicts the coming of a savior to mediate their differences. It is currently ranked 120 on IMDb's Top 250 and has a 4.3 out of 5 on Letterboxd and is ranked 190 on its Top 250. Before we dive into our thoughts, though, we do want to issue a spoiler warning for the film. We are going to be covering everything that happens in the movie, so if you haven't seen it, go and watch it and then come back. That way you're not spoiled. But stay tuned to the end of the show to find out what we're covering next week, because it is sure to be an interesting one, as it's a film that both of us haven't seen. Alrighty, Kevin. So this week is, of course, Metropolis. This was a film that I had picked out for this week. And this is a film, obviously, that whenever you look at film classes, like film history, film appreciation, this film will always come up. This film is it has been a perennial, like, top list things, like the things you must see, or the best silent films of all time. It's always on the top or near the top of those lists. And so this was a film that I had seen bits and pieces and kind of most of when I was in high school in film classes, and was finally ready to just watch the entire thing all the way through. And so I wanted to pick it for this week. And obviously it's on both the IMDb and Letterboxd Top 250, so that's why we picked it. But what about, had you heard of this movie before? I'm sure you've seen the image of the female robot with the pentagram on the wall behind her, at least at some point.
I don't think I've ever have, because I didn't see a single thing that I noticed while watching this movie that made me realize, like, oh, I think I know this movie now. And I always messed it up because Metropolis is coming out, and I thought those were the two.
You're thinking Megalopolis.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I thought they were connected in some way. So no, I had no idea what this movie was. But that's always kind of nice too.
They are sort of related in the fact that the root word comes from the same thing, right? The Metropolis is a very, urban, sprawling kind of city, and like a megalopolis is like a, I don't know, like a state-sized city. Like it's it's just different sizes of those same words. I'm sure someone in the comment section can go in more depth on what the difference between those is. But obviously, this is your first time seeing anything for this film, and I don't want to spoil our viewers on what this kind of discussion is going to be. But what did you think about it? Because it sounds like this is probably our biggest point differential in a while.
Yeah, and it's a point differential not because it is a bad movie. That's what I'll say at that. But walking away from this, I needed more enthrallment in the music in this movie, because the one that I watched, and Garrett explained this earlier before we started recording, that there are some other recordings of this movie with different musicians and everything like that. I think that would have greatly helped me watching this movie, because the one that I watched was the same music over and over again. It was getting very annoying to me. I was trying to watch it, but that music just kept playing in the background, and I literally thought I was going crazy sometimes. But I understood why, because it is a silent film. You need something to kind of be in there to make it a little bit more enjoyable. I totally understand that, but the music did not work for me. It could have gone to some low musics or some high musics, but the same exact thing every single time really got on my nerves.
Yeah, it's and to be in all fairness and transparency, I did the full version of the film that I watched is the same exact one that you did. It is the version that's on Tubi right now to stream for free, And I mean, to get it for free comes with a price. It does come with this like steamboat, riverboat style, like,
God.
Western dance hall type piano music, and it doesn't really fit the tone of the movie.
Nope.
I think it's very hard to blame the film for that. I think that was just whatever Tubi's choice was of getting a cheaper version of the film, probably. For those of you who are interested, there is like I was telling Kevin before this, there is a colorized version of the film, which does make the film suffer. You should watch it in black and white. But that version of the film has the original score, and it's on YouTube. So if you do want to watch it with the original score, this orchestral sweeping, more of like an operatic score, it's there. It has some really incredible music, actually. Like it does, it's very reminiscent of John Williams, or at least like not reminiscent. Like John Williams is reminiscent of this, I guess you could say. But like that is kind of something important to note. But definitely the Tubi version. It's very annoying. It's very grating. I think I actually turned off the music probably about halfway through and just muted my TV.
Maybe I should have done that. 'Cause I think I would have enjoyed the movie a lot more.
Yeah, and it can definitely lower your enjoyment of the movie. It definitely didn't affect my score. But like the level of enjoyment from watching the entire thing all the way through was definitely lessened. And so I think you can get this through Criterion. Or Criterion Collection, not the channel, or like you can always get it on like Blu-ray and stuff too. I think, and I'm sure that way you're going to get the original cut, like the original, not cut, the original score.
Yeah,
which is definitely going to make it important. Like
yeah,
that
because
just...
it during like certain situations, like the water breaking when all the workers fall off of the little while they're working, it was the same music for the same thing. I'm like, this doesn't fit the movie at all, and that's what and like how you said it didn't affect your score, it affects my score because the enjoyment for that movie was hindered because of what I was listening to.
Yeah, exactly. It's, something very kind of crazy will happen, and then you get the
ding 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 ding.
It's just like, all right, well, come on, can we just move on with that and get something else? So I get it. Like it definitely is very annoying, but I do. As much as we need to discuss that, we also need to talk about the film itself. And this movie, like I may have already mentioned, is almost 3 years shy of being 100 years old. And the fact that the film looks this good still, and is that detailed and richly designed, is... like it flabbergasts me every time I like look at any still of this movie. It is incredible.
It's so cool. I mean, we know from now because of what we know about movies, but the painting in the background or the backgrounds are mostly paintings drawn by hand, and then the foreground has some set designs, but it looks fantastic. Like that I gave this movie a score, but the movie needs to be watched again with the original score because it will get bumped up because that score that I watched was not that fun. But just because of like the shots, the sets, and the paintings, and even the robot girl, I don't remember her name. I'm gonna be totally honest.
Well, I mean, the same girl plays two characters. Brigitte Helm, she plays Maria. But the robot itself is just called the Machine Man. There's no name for it.
Well, and the machine, it looks so good as well. Like it's very detailed in such an older movie. You don't get that much detail in some of the movies now that we get, with all the rivets and the shadowings were really cool on that as well. And it just looked so beautiful.
Yes, and I think that what's really interesting is that you can look at this film through the lens of, oh, these are matte paintings and the buildings don't look real. And if you look into it that way, you can also see that it is really, I mean, it is a science fiction film and deals with robots and a futuristic society and things
Hmm.
like that. But like you can also look at this as a fantasy, as a fable, right? Just like how
Hmm.
Megalopolis is going to be when it comes out, right? It is not supposed to be incredibly realistic,
Mm-mm.
especially now, right? Like, right, this came out in 2027 or 1927, excuse me. This was what they thought 2019 looked like,
Hmm.
or no, 2027, excuse me.
Yeah.
So it was 100 years in the future. This is what they thought it was going to look like. And as obviously we got closer to 2027, we look at it like it's, like we look at Back to the Future Part 2,
Hmm.
right? It's just kind of this idealized, fantastical version of the future. They're still using biplanes 100 years into the future. Obviously there's some. They didn't know about like flying cars. They didn't like they have cars and trucks in the movie,
Yeah.
but it's absolutely gorgeous, and the scale of everything,
Hmm.
like the massive tower that's in the middle of the city, which
Yeah.
is the new Tower of Babel, I believe is what it's called.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, which obviously there's some kind of messaging stuff going on there, but it is it's painted, but it looks gorgeous. And one of the shots that really stands out when it comes to scale is when we're first introduced to what's his name, Freder, the main character.
Yeah. The main character.
When they're out doing the track run, and it's
Hmm.
just these giant walls and this like
Hmm.
big facade of the building. You can definitely see this because this is part of what's called German expressionism, right? Is
Okay.
what
Uh-huh.
these styles called. Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is also in that kind of similar kind of
Okay.
expressionistic style. That one is more so gothic, and I'm trying to think of the word, but it's like nothing is symmetrical. Everything is like curvy and wavy and
Like abstract.
yeah, abstract is probably a good word. Whereas this is a style that's called Art Deco, which is one of my personal favorite styles. Right,
Okay.
it's kind of
Hmm.
brutalist, gothic 1920s, 1930s style,
Hmm.
um, and you can see, unfortunately, where people like the Third Reich got a lot of their building styles from. Like you look at what the Germans wanted to do with the Reichstag was going to be this giant dome building, right?
Hmm.
And it
Hmm.
looks very similar to a lot of the buildings that were in this movie, which is funny because apparently this was one of Hitler's favorite movies,
Yeah.
which is very strange.
Hmm.
That's like I don't know. It, I'm trying to think of a similar film.
Controversial leader.
Like
For
I'm trying to, or any like it's like I don't even have I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but like it just doesn't make sense. Like clearly he didn't get the point.
Mm-mm.
So of the working class and all that. But like the style, like coming back to it, is just it's gorgeous, and there is a clear distinction between the upper levels of society
Yeah.
and the lower levels, which is very good at helping us to kind of picture what's going on and what's happening.
Hmm.
Particularly the sermon area where
Hmm.
Maria is leading is very different than anything in
Yeah.
the upper levels. And there's even like a Garden of Eden, which is just really kind of a
That that
fun
was
sequence.
with the maidens that's running around with is it Fritz?
Freder?
Freder, that's the
Yeah,
name.
Fritz is the
I was
director.
Oh, okay, Freder. That was interesting, but I liked all the um down below stuff. I don't want to. That's
Mhm.
what would they call it? The Undercity or Lower
Yeah, the
City?
Underworld, I think is what they call it.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
that was so cool to see and watch and unfold because at with Freder.
Mhm.
Okay, with Freder, he doesn't know about this.
Yeah.
So he's taking you along with him to explore a new world that he has never seen before. And that's what's really cool about it as well. But yeah, the scale to these buildings and the scale to what is happening in this movie as well is big. And it doesn't hide away from it, and I like that because some movies would like give you big scale but then like kind of tone it down during the middle and the end of the movie. But no, this one's just all up in your face, and It's amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed that while watching the movie. And I really liked the direction it was going throughout the whole time as well.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of parallels that this film makes. You obviously have the story of someone who from a higher class is then
Hmm.
has to not switch sides, but like kind of get involved with another party and sees their plight. There's definitely like aspects of like the Moses story there.
Hmm.
Obviously, the Tower of Babel and the new Tower of Babel in the movie. You have like the Garden of Eden. You've got this kind of cult-like stuff, but then obviously you have the very social and political kind of undertones, right? Like this, in many ways, could be seen as a socialist or Marxist film,
Hmm. Hmm.
because obviously the working man rising up against the ruling class.
Yep.
But then, and this does kind of lead me into one of my critiques about the movie. Not a very large critique, but I do think that the movie is not concrete enough in what it's trying to say.
I can see that. I
Yeah.
did get a little confused on what they were trying to make me, I don't want to say feel, but make me think about the movie when it's happening, or how we want it to end, or have like a good feeling end movie or a bad feeling end movie, if that makes sense.
Because if this was truly like a socialist film, it would have dealt with the upper people getting thrown out or having
Mhm.
punishment cast upon them. If it was a more fascist or capitalist or whatever type film, it would have been the other way around. And
Mhm.
instead, it just kind of goes for somewhere in the middle. Obviously, the entire message of the film is that you have the head. I think it's the head and the heart, the head and the hand,
Yeah,
and what
but
will bring them together is the heart.
yeah. Mhm.
So someone to mediate, and I think that that is an interesting way of not picking a side and
Mhm.
trying to allow your audience to come up with whatever narrative or kind of meaning that they want.
Mhm.
But the problem is in that you're not really presenting any, like, I could walk into this as a socialist and come out still being a socialist. I could walk into this being a capitalist and still walk out being a capitalist. And or even you could come into this as a fascist. You shouldn't be a fascist in 2024, but you could walk into the movie as a fascist, like maybe Adolf Hitler did, and walk out of it still a fascist, right?
Mhm.
Because it
Mhm.
doesn't really do anything to challenge your beliefs. It
Mhm.
just almost just kind of acknowledges them, and
Yeah,
it's like, oh, these things still exist in this world, and not really,
that's
you
it
know,
though.
exactly, and not really challenge you,
Mhm.
which is fine. It's not something that I really expect from a film from 1927. And I
Yeah.
think that the fact that this film is as good looking as it is, as riveting as it is,
Mhm.
and being a completely silent film is more than enough. And that's why I'm saying like it doesn't really affect my score that much. You do kind of have to look into it. Like this is before 19 it's before 19, or excuse me, World War II. So you're not getting like the kind of anti-fascist or anti,
Mhm.
Nazi type film. This is after World War One, where fascist governments still existed and were quite popular, and
Mhm.
so you're not seeing any criticism yet. Obviously, the world hadn't changed, and we start to see a lot more of that post World War II. A lot more of
Mhm.
um, the capitalist propaganda type films coming out during like the
Yeah.
50s and 60s, and then you get to see a lot of like the Eastern, like pro-communist films in like the 60s, and all that as well. And so like there's definitely a split there. But this is before, like, this was what, 20 years, 30,
Yep.
40 maybe into film's existence as a medium like this. And obviously they're just trying to make entertainment, and I
Mhm.
do highly respect it for that. You know, I
Mhm.
just I don't expect it to be something truly challenging, but here's the thing: maybe we become so accustomed to movies that do challenge us and do try to persuade you or present an opinion or
Mhm.
a line of thought or a belief, as opposed, like, and we're so used to that now that anytime a movie like this we watch, and we're just kind of like, it's not trying to say anything. I mean, it's trying to say something through its visuals, and like,
Mhm.
oh, it's allegorical to the Tower of Babel and Moses, or
Mhm.
whatever, the plight of the people, right? It could
Mhm.
be any of those,
Yeah,
But
but it wants you to choose. But we don't.
sure.
Movies nowadays don't want us to choose. They want you to see the ending of the movie, if that makes sense. I know some movies nowadays do have that, like, ooh, I wonder what happened with prisoners last week.
2 weeks ago.
Did it 2 weeks ago. Um, but it did he survive? Did he not survive?
Hmm.
Stuff like that. But I like those movies because it's like, okay, it's not like a definitive answer to it, which is nice. But this movie being so old, an older movie, trying to not persuade you in a different way, but makes you look at what you believe in and be like, okay, did I actually get that from this movie? I can see that
Hmm.
happening.
Yeah, and I think you could really look into it as it reinforcing what you think. You can use it as
Mm-hmm.
an example, like, oh, like I think that the working class should be as powerful as the ruling class or whatever. And Metropolis is kind of one of those things that kind of shows why. Like you could
Hmm.
definitely use it to some effect, but I do have to say I think that the film is, it by itself. I absolutely, I adore it visually and tonally. This movie is also a vibe, man. You could
Hmm.
you could have this movie on in the background and just kind of on throughout the day, and it just kind of does its thing. Like I don't know,
Hmm.
it's not like a Halloween movie by any means. Like it's not like a creepy movie or anything
Hmm.
like that. But like I feel like if you're ever gonna have like a 1920s kind of era party or something, you
Hmm.
could have this on in the background and it would fit right in.
Yeah. Totally see that happening, actually.
Yeah, and it's like one of my favorite bands of all time, Ghost. Their one of their albums, Meliora, had an Art Deco Metropolis style feel to it,
Mm,
with a lot of its art and its music videos.
mm,
And so, like, that's how I really was introduced to the style and why I enjoy it so much. But they used Metropolis as an inspiration, which, which really makes me kind of lead me to my next point of just how influential this movie is on film.
mhm, mhm.
Think about what does the Machine Man in this movie look like?
I mean, it looks like every robot pretty much that we get.
Looks a lot like C-3PO to me.
I mean, some people could see Iron Man in it as well. Give it to a little
Exactly.
kid. And that's up to our interpretations. They don't
Yeah.
give it a name, which I think is absolutely perfect because it's just the machine. It can be whatever it wants to be. It can be an Iron Man. It can be a C3PO. It can be anything like that, which is awesome.
But also think like visually and tonally what this movie has done for other films. There's so many examples that I could, there's too many to list, really,
Hmm.
of the films that take this for example. Stanley Kubrick, a very famous director, one of the best filmmakers of all time, has listed this film directly as an inspiration on a lot of his work. Several other important filmmakers, Spielberg, Scorsese, have all mentioned Metropolis at some point. Like, it is one of those films that it endures not only because it's in film circles and film classes and stuff, but just because the people that we now look up to as directors look up to this film
Yeah.
and
Well,
kind of what it did.
you can see some of it as well, like you were saying, like the Art Deco, but about, like, say, Ridley Scott going for Aliens, having very big props, big circumstances, maybe not the Art Deco side of it.
Well, an even better example would be Blade Runner.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
We watched it on this show, my guy.
Blade. Oh my gosh. Oh, that was so long ago. We did. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, perfect example.
Same city
Big.
look and everything.
Yeah. And it's just big and in your face, and I totally forgot we watched
That was like a month or
that.
two ago, maybe.
It
Um,
was.
but yeah, like the way the cities are, like there's constantly moving traffic around. There's a
Mm-hmm.
giant tower in the middle of the city. There's a lot you can definitely take from Metropolis and apply it to pretty much any. A lot of sci-fi films will get away with it, but I think there's also some other films that just use the same kind of shot compositions and stylistic decisions for sure in what they're doing.
Well, right now on my Xbox, I think it's Steampunk 2077, and it's somebody looking up
2077.
whatever it's called, the game that had a bunch of bugs. But it's a person looking up at a big tower in the middle of the city. Like, after watching the movie, and I turned on my Xbox and saw it, I was like, okay, I can see where this is from.
Yeah, its blood and soul and DNA are in so many other projects that it's really refreshing to kind of see it now. Not refreshing, enlightening to kind of see where everything has come from, and like the fact that we have some original films, but man, do they still learn from people who've done it before.
Exactly.
Okay, Kevin. So this was my pick this week, so I guess I'll go first in my score. I think that this film is a masterpiece of visual design and tone and vibe. It really knows what it's trying to go for. Where it does suffer just a little bit is in its messaging. I think that the film doesn't really provide a super strong or concrete enough message, and it just kind of lets you take in your thoughts and pre-existing ideas and still come out of the movie with it. Doesn't challenge you, doesn't really change you in any way, but that's okay. It's a movie from 1927. It's almost 100 years old, and so I can't fault it at all for that. This is still film as it's beginning, and the fact that it still looks so good, and I have no idea how some of this movie was done in 1927, just makes me love it even more. So with that, I give the film a 95 out of 100. It is a 4.5 stars out of 5 for me on Letterboxd.
Nice. Do you think they're going to do a remake of this movie?
I don't think they'll do a remake. I've seen a lot of people ask for a re-release in theaters in 2027 when it's 100 years old.
That would be sick.
And it's like, this is what they thought 2027 was going to look like, So I really hope that we do get a re-release in theaters, though, with the original score, because I will go see it.
Yeah, that would be fun to go see, actually. So, back to the ratings. So my rating actually changed during when we were talking about it. I was a little bit frustrated with the music that we had, so that my anger went to my rating in this movie. I did have it at a 50 out of 100, but talking with Garrett, and it changed the way that I looked at it and how I actually enjoyed the movie a lot more than what I thought I did. So I bumped it up to a 70 out of 100, but I really want to watch that original score because I think that'll even bump it up even higher than that. And it just that's what killed it for me, was the music, and I was frustrated with it. So, but again, really influential on all the movies that are in this top 250. Pretty much, you can see a little bit of everything in there, and I just the scenery in the background and how big everything is, the Art Deco style is just fantastic, and I absolutely loved it about that movie.
So the question now falls to you. What do you think of Metropolis, if you've checked it out already? Hopefully you've watched it before getting to this point, but let us know in the comments section what you think about the film and what score you would give it. Just be respectful of one another, because someone out there could be the machine man and they may come for you. But next week we'll be covering the drama film Incendies, which is the second time within the span of about a month we've had Denis Villeneuve on the show. So, hey, make sure to watch it before next week so you're not spoiled, because I've heard this makes Prisoners look like a rom-com. So really interesting to check out this movie. But thank you so much for watching. Of course, we do have our weekly live stream that goes live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we go over movie news, reviews, and so much more. And of course, the Wheel of Fate, where we get to pick what movies we're going to be watching over the course of a week as submitted by all of you. And then we also have our movie club, like you're watching right now, which goes live every Friday at 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, just in time for your commute, journey, jog, whatever you're doing in the morning, and you can hang out with us as we talk about movies for a little bit. But thank you so much for watching, and until next time, make sure to keep those eyes on the screen.